Hey folks, Papa Boris here with another game from the first Champions Cup Leaders Tournament. I was up against Wol-Alex in the third game to finish, and the first two games I lost. This is a 14-game single round robin tournament. I lost the first two games, and I was really nervous at this point because I have had a little bit of imposter syndrome about my high rating. I feel like it's kind of inflated. I feel like anytime I play against anyone above a 200, I feel really nervous about it, and I lose to them pretty regularly. So playing against all these 300s, I was worried I was going to just lose every single game and be a humiliation in this tournament, and that was how it began with the first two games. So here we were against Wol-Alex, someone I have played against who I believe has beaten me before. He was first and decided to grab the Rider. I don't know what the other options were. I don't know if the Bruiser was here or if it showed up after the Rider was taken. But regardless, we have the Archer and the Protector who are kind of junk, so my draft was easy. I'm obviously going to take the Bruiser, and out pops the Hermit and Cub, which admittedly is quite fortunate. That is a very strong character in basically any circumstance. Now my opponent in top deck mode does get a decent character, the Brewmaster, although I do think that luck favors me in this opening because not only do I get the Bruiser and the Hermit and Cub, but then out pops the Acrobat, and the Brewmaster without another strong character on its own isn't necessarily that incredible. So definitely I was getting all the luck, and then after I took this amazing Acrobat, my opponent flipped up the Nemesis. So all things considered, I do want to be honest, this draft just completely went my way. I got all the luck in this game. But okay, my opponent continues playing, so he gets in there with the Rider, starts to develop his Brewmaster, and takes the Archer for a little bit of mobility. I don't hate this play, but I think with the Bruiser in play, it was worth considering taking the Protector. But I understand how, without any, capital P power, my opponent was tempted to grab the Archer. And out pops the Assassin, so I'm going to get some junk. I jump in with the Acrobat. I develop all my other characters. I'm not worried about anything. This Rider is not a concern. All this other stuff is not super mobile. The Archer, has some range, but it'll take a while to get up there, even with the Brewmaster's help. And yes, like in my other video where I talked about the Assassin, I decide to grab... Oh, never mind. I don't grab the Assassin. This is the different game. I don't take the Assassin. So I was tempted by the Assassin because I do have the Hermit and Cub. However, I guess I made a greedy move. I took the Protector as a hate draft because the draft was going so well that I thought, well, let's just stop my opponent from being able to stop my Bruiser. Of course, the Jailer came out, so my opponent's going to be able to stop my Bruiser anyway, but that was one character out of a whole deck. I don't know. With my opponent getting off to such a slow start, I think just chucking the Assassin down here, or even on this side, and just putting it up to stop my opponent's leader from running away from my advancing Acrobat and Bruiser would have been better than this weird Protector hate pick. Well, my opponent develops some pieces, forms a bit of a wall, starts slipping the Rider in there a little bit, gets the leader back to safety, and chooses the Jailer, which makes perfect sense because the Jailer is a good way to counter the Bruiser. Now, I do think that my opponent's positioning of the Jailer ends up being a little bit of a mistake. And I end up being able to take advantage of this spot. Had my opponent just put it over here and walked towards my Bruiser, I think that he would have had an easier time. But instead what happens here is, first of all, I plug this hole so the Rider has a harder time getting into me. I step out with my Hermit. I keep the Cub where it is for defense. Can't checkmate anyways. I then just step up with a Bruiser and jump in here with the Acrobat. So my Acrobat and Bruiser are both making forward moves, but this spot right here with the Jailer is very awkward. Now the Jailer can't touch my Bruiser except by going here, but going here he is behind my Bruiser. So then when my Bruiser moves away, the Jailer is behind him and is not providing defense to the leader. Now maybe this was on purpose. Maybe my opponent was thinking, oh, well now the Jailer can come down and threaten checkmate along with the Rider and maybe even the Brewmaster. But if that was the case, I think that doesn't end up working out. Because as you can see, here's what my opponent does. Move the Jailer, get closer to my leader, chain my Acrobat and my Bruiser, gets the Rider to start slipping around the back, all right? But now he has to put the Brewmaster back for defense. Simply because if my opponent steps up with the Brewmaster, then the Acrobat and my Bruiser step in, and it doesn't matter if you stop them from having special powers, they're just gonna, with the Hermit, surround and checkmate this king before the Jailer and the Rider can make it over. Even with the Brewmaster, if he was racing over here. These three pieces, the Hermit, Acrobat, and Bruiser, here, and here, are just so close to the enemy leader compared to my opponent's pieces. And if the Brewmaster goes on the offense, I have three attackers versus one defender, whereas my opponent has 3 attackers versus 2 defenders. And if the jailer goes forward to seek checkmate, he might not be able to keep the bruiser and the acrobat jailed. In fact, he definitely won't be able to. And then they can actually use their special abilities to win. So my opponent correctly judged that he had to put his brewmaster back for defense. So he put it here, which is precise because now I can't shove it and I can't jump over it with the jailer. So it looks good on paper. Wait a minute, did he reset their champion? Oh, he put it here. Oh, okay, I think my opponent made a mistake. I think here would have made a lot of sense. Here is like my bruiser can't go in because he's being jailed. He has to follow the acrobat around, which is a little bit ineffective. But here, does he actually stick with it? Oh, he goes all in. He goes all on the offense. Okay, so with this line, now what happens is that my bruiser and acrobat can just walk like Dumbos towards the enemy leader. And if the jailer wants to keep up on him, then he can't be an offensive piece. And if he goes to be an offensive piece, then he stops my bruiser from being jailed. Right now, I'm just simply threatening checkmate by shoving this archer. I put my leader back. I continue to box out the rider, and the hermit I stick there. My thinking was that if the leader tries to go this way, then I can put the bruiser here and jump over it for checkmate. If my opponent jails the bruiser and blocks the spot, then it doesn't matter. I jump over whatever piece he puts there for checkmate. So this is just a very awkward configuration for my opponent to deal with. My opponent has to do is actually now jail the acrobat. But if he jails the acrobat, he has to stand here to do it. And now there's only the brewmaster being offensive. The rider is completely iced by the protector and the cub. So he decides to go for offense with the brewmaster and archer, which makes sense. Maybe he's thinking, hey, this is my only chance. This is just what I got to go for. He comes in and he jails the acrobat, hides in the corner with the leader, or not, or so, and he does. But of course, at this point, it's just over because this is an important pattern to be aware of. If the leader's in one of these corner spots and you have a piece like this and like this, the leader can't move here. And if it moves here, then either one of these spaces with the piece that's threatening it is checkmate. So I'm threatening checkmate very clearly, and there's just no way for my opponent to stop it. All that remains, of course, is the small matter of how not to get checkmated myself. So there's a little puzzle for this video. If you're me, you're the leader, you got 4 different spaces you can move to. Which one do you move to in order to avoid checkmate? All right, are you ready for the answer? The answer is none of them. If you go, okay, here is illegal. This is, you're putting yourself in checkmate. The game won't let you do that. In the corner, that does not work because the brewmaster steps in, the archer steps in behind, it's checkmate. If you go here, the archer goes here, it's checkmate. And you don't have any pieces that can block any of these moves. If you go here, the brewmaster steps in and the archer follows behind for checkmate. You can, of course, pull the cub in to stop the brewmaster from going here, but then the rider steps in here, the brewmaster moves away, the archer steps in for checkmate. The only way to win this game is to not play. The leader needs to stay put, and the cub needs to go here to block the archer from giving checkmate from this spot. Now, the brewmaster is the only piece that can attack your leader, but the archer from here would be giving checkmate, but the cub's blocking it. From here, it's not giving checkmate. And of course, don't forget to put up your protector to stop the rider from riding in here for checkmate. So now I'm threatening checkmate, but my opponent can only get 1 score away from checkmating me, and so he just passed the turn, and I finally won a game in this tournament. So I think my opponent did a pretty decent job at the end there. He didn't play defensively. He went on the offensive. He was very close to checkmating me. I mean, my leader had to find the one exact defense with the positioning of these 2 pieces precisely like this to stop it. I think he made the right call. I just think that, my pieces were there sooner, and as a result, he lost. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.